Talofa lava and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with my dear friend, Coach Mike, the one and only here in Melbourne, out on West Footscray. Today's great guest is a man who has been around the professional athletes and high performance environments for a majority of his career, founder of Melbourne Fitness and Performance and educator, and someone who continues to inspire others to be better, not just athletes, but as people. Known as to many as the White Samoan. Well, that's me and my boys. But more importantly, a leader who lives and breeds culture, connection, and development. A coach who's worked across multiple sporting codes, consistently involved, consistently giving back. This is the one and only Coach Mike. Welcome to PepTalks, my man.
Shuttles. Appreciate you.
We go way back. We're going back exactly 2015, and I feel, based off what I just said, everything is so true about you. I've always admired you as a human, and I couldn't think of anyone better to be on this show. So thank you for your time.
Oh man, after an intro like that, I might just go, and that's us. That's a wrap for my app because, that's really powerful stuff. And when people like yourself, say things like that, it means a lot. And I'm blessed to be here today to be able to have this conversation and unpack some amazing things. No doubt you and I always talk and we always have amazing conversations. So I'm looking forward to see where we go today.
100%. And like I said, I've massive love for you. And before we actually get started, I just want to say a massive thank you and a massive shout out to my boy Padula for putting this together. You've always got to acknowledge those who put you on the platform. So I feel really privileged to be here. So cool. Let's get it started. So for those that are out there, tell us about you, Mike. How did you even get into this whole role of coaching?
Great question.
Take us back.
And it's one that has evolved over time. And, whenever someone asks you to explain your story, I guess the first thing that pops into your head is how quick could I tell my story without it seeming like I'm trying to talk a lot about myself too much. But it really goes back to being a kid, born in New Zealand, young kid. There's only one thing. Sport or farming? Well, two things, sport or farms. So if you play sport, it's kind of like the gold standard. Everyone wants to be an athlete. And for me, that was something I was striving for as a young person. That's what I wanted to create for myself, become an athlete. And then as you evolve, you realize maybe I'm not the athlete I thought I was. And what could I do to help athletes? Where could I find myself? And I found the love for the gym at 16 years old. And then from there, I've never looked back as someone who wanted to inspire the next generation, help professionals, and sort of step into the world of coaching, and especially when it comes to the resistance-based stuff in the gym. From there, it's just evolved over time. Love doing all facets of athletic performance, and it's been a journey of the better part of 20 plus years since my first coaching experience as a personal trainer. So within the scope of that, I've done it all, I've seen it all, and I'm continuing to learn to this day, and I don't think what I'm capable of has been reached, and so I'm looking forward to seeing where I can go in the next 5 years.
How good is that? If we go right back to when you first started as a PT, like to even get there, how did you know that this was your calling?
I think that you never truly know when you're young what it is that you want to do. I first wanted to be a lawyer, and then I thought about real estate, and then it was exercise science, training athletes. And it was sort of the penny drop for me when I was actually in some labs at uni, and I found myself really drawn towards the practical side of everything we were doing. So everything that was practical orientated, that's where my love for this industry came from. So the theory side of things, I got the work done, but the practical side is where I was dominating. And so I sort of took that and then found myself looking for the next steps in my career. And it meant moving to Melbourne from Ballarat, so living in a country sort of city town, and down to the big smoke to chase the athletes, because you need to be in the environment that's going to have the most athletes and the opportunities that you're striving to achieve. So it really came back to those experiences in university, because it's very diverse and they very heavily push you into research. A lot of universities want you to go down that research arm. I almost ended up doing an honors, and then halfway through realized it's not for me. I actually quit that. I don't like quitting, but I gave up on it and just went all in on the coaching side of things.
Because you've obviously you've gone into exercise science and you've regressed down that pathway, right? And I know you've been pretty big on your research. How much of that do you try and apply that to your athletes? Obviously, it's in reality, it's very different. Like, how have you learned to kind of tap into your research, the science, and unfolding with athletes? Do you find that there's a good engagement?
Yeah, I think we live in the most unique time. Modern science and modern availability of any information you need is at the click of a button. So if you're not up to date with what's going on and what everyone else is doing and showcasing and figuring out all the solutions and how that could enhance your system, you're behind. And the evolution is it's expanding so quick. We get access to seeing the best in the world training, and obviously then we're able to extrapolate from that what we can that we can then utilize in our own training of our own athletes. So from that perspective, it's like science is always there, but there's a lot of trial and error that's not science-based that you need to be doing because it becomes that 1% that you're trying to do that no one else is. Yeah. And I think my biggest thing that I always harp on is that to young coaches and people out there is you are your own research project. So if you're not in the gym, if you're not out there sprinting, if you're not out there doing running or conditioning-based programs, if you're not trialing new things and trying to enhance yourself, then you're not going to be able to actually understand what it is you're trying to do with your athletes in the long run. Just because the textbook says, what it is that you might need to do, your lived experience and the things that you do with the people you have is also going to help you in that respect. So for me, I like to use the science, but then I'm also like to experiment with my own ideas, especially when it comes to gym-based stuff.
Yep. Would you say that's your biggest point of difference for you? Because you're someone to me as high urgency. So do you find that in your other coaches that kind of have that same ethos?
I think my point of difference is that what separates me from other coaches, this is probably a couple of little things that I'll go off. My ability to create rapport and relationships from all the years of personal training, working with all different types of people, corporates, CEOs, older populations, pregnant ladies that I was helping through their pregnancies, people with injuries and all that stuff. So creating rapport and buy-in from people, I think really is something that I've been able to establish. So you can put me in any room with any athlete at any moment. I can get buy-in quite quickly and find a way to connect with them. And I think that's probably one thing that, I would say separates me from others. And then one of the second things is I've never stopped trying to get better personally, and I've never stopped experimenting with training concepts and ideas. And I think that's helped me to then go back to that buy-in with the athletes, is that my athletes see that I know what I'm talking about when I say things because I'm also doing it. So I think that they're the two things that I can hold my hat on. And then you can say and argue all the other facets of training and who you are and what it takes to be a great coach. But those two things I think really help, because at the end of the day, a lot of us doing similar things, but it's about the execution with the athlete and then at the right time making the adjustments to get the results that we're looking for.
You can definitely hear a lot of that is connection, and I've definitely observed in how you operate with your athletes, and I've got to work with some of your athletes that you've referred to me, and like your connection and how much work you spend with them outside of hours. So I definitely can see how much emphasis you put on connection, and it's definitely something that I've taken from you. Just the rapport, and you realize it's translating that into healthcare. That's where healthcare is probably going a little bit skewed, is that we get so caught up in just treating the symptom rather than understanding the person as a whole. So in terms of connection and buy-in from the patient, it's not really as strong. So I've definitely witnessed with your athletes the buy-in that you have. So yeah, massive credit to you, because I definitely see your athletes having an amazing time over there.
Yeah, and I think the last part you add there, an amazing time. Like if you're not having fun, what are you truly doing? Like you hear these scenarios that people talk about. If the environment that you're in, you shouldn't work with your friends. You shouldn't go into business with friends. Work is work, and then fun's outside of it. For me, I'm like, well, why would I want to spend majority of my life not enjoying the place I am at or with the people I'm with? So I sort of lead with that example of like team MFP, team ethos from sports. That's how I like to operate, and that's like the way I like to live my life is I give for you, you give for me, we work together, we build together, and we create meaningful relationships, which inevitably help us all be successful in whatever we're doing.
Have you, while I've got you on that, have you noticed that massive section of connection? Do you find it way easier to program for someone?
Wow, no. I think what that does do is allows them to express more to you, and then they give you a bit more feedback on things they do or don't like. A lot of times athletes are just doers.
Yep.
They will do, right? Especially the higher up you get, they know they need to do things, so they will do. But sometimes you need to be able to get feedback from your athletes, and that's where if you have the right connection with them, they'll express things to you in a deeper meaning, and then you can take hold of that and then obviously formulate the program. Developing the program comes back to a few key things. So like the athlete, the time that they have to train with you, so how much they are with you, and if it's like once a week, twice a week, there's so many other facets to it. The things they can do when they're away from you, and then the resources around that. So if they're at my facility versus somewhere else, if I'm at their facility with them, whatever it may be, there's that stuff when it comes to building the program. But from a perspective of making adjustments to suit the person, definitely there's some carryover over for sure.
And what kind of feedback are we talking that the athletes give you?
Oh, I mean, depends on the person, the day, and what's going on in their life. But essentially, what you're looking for is how they're feeling, what they're noticing from the training, if it's interfering with their other tactical or professional work that they're doing. So like if they're at their training and the stuff that I've been doing is limiting their abilities, then obviously I've got to take that into consideration, especially in the private sector where I'm heavily involved now, because I don't have access and I'm not doing everything with them all the time. If you're in the professional environment where you have control of all those factors, it's a lot easier to manage workloads and training loads and volumes. So getting feedback on how the training's making them feel away from what we're doing, and the things that they're sensing in their body, because at the end of the day, we're looking for adaptations and change. So what are those outcomes, and how we can see that we're not there at the training all the time, so we don't notice it. So it's up to us to get the feedback from them.
That's actually a really good point, and this will resonate with a lot of the millions of followers that are going to be listening and watching this.
Let's go. PepTalks, baby.
Like this will connect with a lot of kids who want to be athletes, but they've commitments to school. They want to train like an athlete. How would you program for someone like that who's got to factor, sleep, time with family, cost is another thing, barrier, and then skill acquisition, like they want to be an athlete. Like how do you navigate those things?
Yeah, well, that's the marketing genius that we have at our gym to get the athletes in the door. Sales pitch. No, I think when it comes to I guess speaking to youth and parents, and if we go down that path and getting them in the right frame of mind of that, it's great if they're doing a lot of sports, because that's going to help them become athletic, and that's going to help them improve all facets of athleticism. However, the missing link can be for a lot of kids is that having some fundamental movement patterns improved, whether that's jumping, landing, running, sprinting, crawling, catching, passing. That's where we can step in with our programs as well to assist in those avenues. So we can look at the year as seasons. If you've got a peak season where you've got too many sports on, probably at a younger age, that's where you might drop down from our style of training, versus if you've got an off season or a time when there's less commitments to sports, that's where we're going to obviously ramp things up a little bit, get you in the gym more, getting you do stuff that we can assist you with to help you be better. So yeah, we're always trying to work in with the conversations around that stuff. When it comes to cost and things like that, it's tricky. We try to price our program at a level that is fair to the client, but also helps us to grow, because at the end of the day, we're trying to provide the best program so that we can have the best athletes, and it's not cheap to run that. Every coach that we bring in, every person that you have running the business, there's a lot going on.
And yeah, I 100% connect, and that's the same with us in our industry. Like we, it's sad to say it, it's like exchanging money for time. So we work really hard on being really effective in terms of providing value of care. So we have a criteria that pay patients that come in, making sure that we get a diagnosis, time frame, management plan, who's involved in exactly my role. So that way, it's just more the connection bond to the patient. so that way they feel like, okay, cool, we've done our job as practitioners. If we can guide them, cool. If they can navigate the costs, time, then we'll do our best to make sure that we can teach them to be more self-reliant. But I definitely feel like we put a lot of emphasis on the education part.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
because we've had people at West though and say come out to you guys, it's about making sure that they have access to those kinds of facilities.
Yeah, and it's tricky to navigate all that with every person, especially in a short space of time. And when you think about rehab, obviously the best thing about that is there's a definitive goal. This person wants to get back to sport or out of pain versus someone who's training for performance and the timeline that they might have available for that as well. So I think rehab, we've always found it's a bit easier for people to understand the pathway, whereas athlete development, which is long-term, it's a little bit trickier for people to gauge that because it is such a lengthy process and it's not an overnight fix. It does take time for you to actually truly see the real results of all the hard work that you will and won't be doing. So
it must be amazing when you see the parents like stoked to see how much their kids have kind of, grown as leaders. Like that must be the cool thing for you to see as a coach. So awesome work for you guys, and we're massive fans, and like we feel like if you want to be an athlete, then this is where you need to go. But my next question for you, my man, is you've worked across multiple sporting codes. What have those environments taught you about performance?
Yeah, well, this is a great question, and I think the number one thing that I take away from all the scenarios I've been to at the highest levels or whatever it may be is that the quote that sits with me the most, and it's cliche, but a rising tide lifts all boats. So when you're at those top environments, no matter what it is, it comes down to a collaboration of realistically, in most cases, close to including coaches, including all personnel and including all the people in the back end, big administration teams and all of this, a lot of people working together to get an outcome. And the things we have to remember is that every single person there that's a human has their own problems outside of those four walls or outside of those environments. But how can you then all work together to build towards success? And, not every personality type attracts to every other personality type. How do you overcome all of these things to continue to push people to get the best out of themselves at the right time? And I think the thing that I take away from all of those environments is that it just really echoes the need for cohesion and team. Yeah. So how can you get the culture right that breeds success for the team that you have with the people that are there, and the people that you bring in, do they fit the culture and the needs for your team? And that is the $1 million question that everyone's trying to get right every single time it comes around to signing players, bringing people in the building. You could have the best program with the worst execution. You could have the program that's not so great with amazing execution. And what outcomes does that look like? So yeah, I think getting everyone buying in, getting the whole culture right, is what formulates successful environments.
That's actually my favorite quote.
Yeah.
And I've used that a few times, Padula, on this podcast. So the rise and tide lifts all the boats, and I 100% am with you on that. And it's was there any particular environment that kind of you learnt the most from, that you really apply those fundamentals?
I think you take away from any opportunity, and every environment you find yourself in, there's always lessons that you can take away. So I've been to the Institutes of Sport, the Victorian, the AIS. I've been at multiple AFL clubs for different reasons, NRL, and I've had access to go and spend some time with professional rugby players and teams as well. So it's like you get a lot from everyone, but you're looking for those core things that you can really take away and enhance. And I think that's where the attention to detail of what it is, all the little elements that you're doing. And now when you're a finely tuned, high performance environment, there's so many things that they're looking at and figuring out exactly which ones are the right ones to look at versus which not. And that there's so many moving parts that it's just like any opportunity you have, there's always a lesson to be learned, and always be willing to learn. They're the big things for me, no matter what it is. Workshops, events, goes the same.
So you've obviously trained a lot of guys from the Melbourne Storm. You've got a handful of AFL players that you've looked after. Everyone knows as the Storm as like the aura, like the All Blacks. Everyone associates him as winning. Do you notice a difference in those types of athletes versus others?
No, if you're a high level athlete and you're at the top, like they're doing this, the best are doing the same things well. I think when you have more of it and really push across the whole system, that's when there's more success. And I think like we can look at Penrith Panthers right now as the pinnacle of rugby league as well as another team. Everyone like looks from the outside and goes, wow, they're amazing. We've seen it before with plenty of other teams. Tom Brady back in his Super Bowl days at the Patriots, like, there's so many great examples of this stuff where it was really the top people pushing the envelope and then that coming down through the rest of the ranks. And the personality of the people at the top, I think, really matter when it comes to that stuff. And so for me, like, there's not to say like these people are better than them, that you'll always find amazing athletes wherever you go. And that's the joys of sport, is that there is a lot of talent out there, but then if you can enhance that talent, what could you then create? And I think that's what excites us when we have youth athletes. So who has the talent and who has the work ethic? And then what will that look like in 10 years? And I think the big thing that really helps is when players and athletes buy in early to how they control themselves off the field. And I think that's where things can go wrong.
While I have you there on athletes, what separates good athletes from like great athletes? What are the characteristics that you've seen? Has it been more like leadership qualities?
Yeah, I think it really, the big one that I always go back to in any interview I've ever watched, any podcast, any sort of documentaries or the environments I found myself, it's typically work ethic. So when you've got the talent and you've got the work ethic and you're willing to sacrifice more than others, that's where you see the greats. That's what they're willing to do. They will give up that birthday party. They won't go to this event because for them they needed to do something else. And I think the work ethic matching the talent is what separates the greats from the good.
Are you allowed to share a story, an example, plug one of your athletes just that you've been admired over the years? I mean, you've been coaching for such a long time. Is there someone that sticks out that just has that aura of like leadership, and he's obviously got to where he is based on work ethic, being a good human? Because you have very high standards, and whoever you mention here is obviously.
Well, the thing is, like, if you go and look at some of the things, I think like sometimes it's the unassuming people. Yep. So, like, you actually part of that journey of Uberman Mal, and like she surprised me because like what she actually did, I think it doesn't really, people wouldn't understand it, but essentially it was she's the first and only female ever to complete Uberman, which is a race that's, I think it's like 600 miles total distance. Yeah. It takes 5 days to complete. There's no real race. There's no prizes. It's just, can you complete this event? And like to train for something like that, like what you put on the line with your body, your mind, and, a 35 or 50K swim into 500 Ks of riding, into 200 Ks of running through the craziest terrain. I think like, when I step back and really analyze everything versus someone who's won a premiership or, had one season where they executed everything to the highest level. I think when you look at something like that, it's like, she just really showcases what humans are capable of if they truly put their mind to it. Because if the first time I met her, you'd have told me that's what she was going to do, and you look and saw her, I laughed. When Pep told me what she was planned to do, the 5 Ironmans in 5 days through Hawaii, I was laughing like, who? What? Like, so I think like from that, the lesson is like, what you're truly capable of as a human when you put your mind to it, when the work ethic matches, the talent and the sacrifices you're willing to make, who knows what people are capable of until they find that. So
it's actually quite cool that you brought up Mel, and this is a shout out to Mel Yuri. She is an amazing human. And yes, we got to, obviously, you did all the hard work of making sure that putting all the plan in place to make sure that she had the performance. But we actually got to witness. We were in Hawaii with the crewing, and what a opportunity that was, just to see just the pure determination that she had. But it was quite, every day she would reflect just on how the body was feeling. And she's quite intuitive, right? She just felt she was just so strong, like in her mental capacity. Like she knew that she was just ready for the next event, always. And I was just always kind of baffled by like just how strong her mindset was. Like she knew she was physically sore, but she knew that she had to get ready back it up the next day. So here's me as a practitioner, I'd be asking, what's helping you the most? And she would always go back to acknowledging all her strength lifting leading up to that event. So it was actually pretty cool to see the impact of S&C at that level. And I remember communicating with you every now and then just to see how she was doing, because it was kind of how you said, it was hard to program for those kind of events.
There's nothing for that out there.
And this kind of ties back into, I guess, the feedback. She was obviously someone that always gave feedback, how she was feeling. Yeah. And we knew that my job was to make sure that she was not had any muscle aches and pains. You were obviously controlling all the lifting, and then she had the mental capacity. So it was kind of like a perfect athlete to work with, because she'll do whatever you commanded. But to see her race, it was it was such an amazing experience, and what an athlete to actually plug there.
Yeah, and like I said about the Uberman event, if you're not sure, seriously look it up. But what Pep's talking about there is the 5 Ironmans, 5 days, 5 islands in Hawaii, and you have to make it to certain cutoff times, hop on a plane to go into the next day. So you don't actually really sleep. I think she told me she slept for about 15 hours across the 5 days to complete it, because she was trying to sleep. There was a bit of micro napping on some of the plane rides and things like this. But there's so much going on in that time. So like you could imagine the stress and the mental capacity that you need to complete something like that. It's insane. And yeah, going on to Uberman, she's still the first and only female to ever to complete that event. I'm sure someone's going to chase her down one day, but for now, Mel, that was just proving what humans are capable of. I think it's like the first person that does anything. You can't beat that, especially in a feat of endurance that's extreme.
Had you heard of it before?
No.
Yeah. I'm still kind of shocked.
And hopefully I won't again.
I think you will have to crew with her next time. I actually bumped into her husband not long ago.
Oh, that's amazing.
And she said she's getting back to come back.
No. She's done enough.
Yeah, amazing. Now, the next topic is around leadership. And I know that you and I have many conversations in terms of leaders, what it takes to be a leader. Tell me about, in terms of, describe your leadership style. And how has it evolved over time, particularly your world of S&C, and then being a business owner, and then now responsible for, high-profile athletes. How's that kind of evolved?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're in your early 20s, you think you know everything. And then when you hit 30, you start to realize, I don't actually still know everything, but I'm starting to feel like I know a lot. And the wisdom side of life starts to kick in a bit more. So the big part for me, which has always been my ethos, is that I like leaders who lead by example and are who they say they are. So if I want to follow someone or people that I look up to in the world, I want them to be the person they say they are and lead by the example that they set for others. And so for me, that's always been something that's stuck with me. So I'll give you this example. So when I was working at ESS Performance, which was the first sort of youth athlete performance program in Australia. And we had 200 athletes, and we were doing mornings and nights, right? A lot of training, split days, long days, and I was PTing in between. And I remember when I was there every morning, getting ready, 5:45 a.m., Craig Bellamy will come in, training. For the first while, I was just watching. And then eventually I start talking to him.
This is the Storm
this
coach.
Is Craig Bellamy. Everyone knows Craig Bellamy, the Storm coach. And it just clicked for me. He is doing and leading by example, for like one of the first in there, training, physically look strong, healthy, and then obviously asking a lot from his players with the way that he expects them to play. So that sort of set with me for a long time. And it's been something that I've always led by example. And I'd make our team follow the same. So like a big thing is if you're not training, you won't be working at MFP. we have to be training and training hard. It's a big part of what we do. We have to chase something and compete. It really helps us to understand what our athletes are going through, and there's a connection point that you have there with them. The second part of this is that over the last while as being a little bit more empathetic towards people, because I was very strong in my approach. Doesn't mean I don't bully some of our interns at the right time now. They need it. But I'm a bit more empathetic with people than what I used to be, for sure. And that's evolved over the last few years because people are still figuring things out for themselves and they haven't had those experiences. So they need to be able to be guided a bit more. And I'm not empathetic, like, give you a hug and like, they're there. More so the way I direct them and the expectations I have on them evolve with them rather than being really aggressive on my expectations at the start. I'll evolve with them if they've got the right personality traits and the right attitude. So if you showcase attitude and energy and personality traits, that will bypass, because all the other things I want you to have with your work ethic, around business and coaching will come over time, and I can work with you through those things.
So you mentioned empathetic. So was there where did you see that? Like, was there something that you learned?
Yeah, look, and coming from...
You got feedback from?
Yeah, different direction. Like, we have 50% of our athletes as females at MFP. And probably before that, I used to train a lot more males, but I had a lot of one-on-one clients who were female. So it wasn't that I wasn't used to training females. So there's definitely learnings in how and I was always so more caring towards them and how I would, you need to be. The way that you coach a female is not the same way that I coach a male. And, that's evident based on the personality of the people that you come across. So I then realized, where I am in my career and where the other people are as coaches are in their career, I need to mold myself to, fit their shoes and help them and sort of be a bit more open to where they're at in their career versus what my expectations need to be at that moment. And so I can kind of, be a bit more empathetic towards the things that they're dealing with, and also understand that the world's changed in the last 10 years. So there's a lot more pressure and stress on them that they're having to learn and deal with. So how can I then give them that direction that's going to assist them rather than just have super high expectations from day one?
It's interesting that you say about empathetic and obviously learning a lot from females. Did it change your style with guys?
Nah, I think the way I look at training male athletes is that they need authority a lot of the time, especially those young teen boys. They respect it, and I think that's why, like, if you can showcase the skills that they're chasing, that's what really helps them to buy into you, because they typically, girls will come in, give them their program, they will go do it, bang. You mightn't even speak to them if you don't go chase them down. The boys come in, oh look, there's a butterfly. They can get distracted easy. They can get too excited. They want to just load up the bench press. They can lose. They have great energy, but at that age, with everything that's going on, they need more direction and authority to control that energy rather than just letting it loose and letting them do their own thing. And I think then as you get more professional later on, it becomes, okay, how can I give you my energy that helps you then to get what you're looking for, and make sure that what's coming in your session, you attack it the way it needs to get the outcome, right? So the more professional you get, it flips a little bit more, because now there's certain outcomes that we need from this session that I need you to be locked in on. And sometimes an athlete doesn't want to be going for a 85% squat, under a heavy load on their back. They're tired, they've had a big week, they didn't sleep great the night before, but I've got to now bring the energy to give to them to help them overcome that so that we can get the outcome we need. Granted, without putting them at risk and anything like that, of course, but you mold to the different situations and how you are, but when it comes back to then your leadership style and what you give, you have to then be adaptable to the different scenarios that are there as well.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of that saying from the Wayne Smith, the All Black coach, about understanding females and male athletes? He says women need to feel good to play well, where guys need to play well to feel good. So from a context, it just gives you an idea just how different the two are. And from a healthcare, I've definitely learned the older and more experienced I've become, just how much more intuitive I need to be when I'm dealing with females in terms of pain, because pain for females is very different to guys. So I've definitely relied on a lot of my culture to be a bit more understanding, um, listen to understand rather than just to respond. And I've definitely got better results in terms of buy-in from the patient, just more like they feel heard. And for us as practitioners, it allows us to kind of triage what their plan should look like, the diagnostics, time frame, management plan, who needs to be involved. They're definitely more committed. So I definitely can see how important it is to kind of understand it as a leader, and how important it is to pass on the information. But I've definitely been in environments where it wasn't like that, and you could definitely see that you learn a lot from different environments, whether you're going to take that or not. I definitely feel like I've been in an environment, since I've been in Melbourne, I won't mention names, where that wasn't the style of leaders that I want to be associated with. And you know me very well. If it doesn't fit with my values, I actually just get up and go. And leadership for me is really important. I feel like if you're in a position of power, your role is to empower. And so I've definitely idolized you as a human since I first met. Kind of like what you touched about Craig Bellamy in terms of like turning up. That's something that I saw when we first met at that gym, GW. And I was just blown away by your work ethic, but because you'll do morning shift, night shift. I'll be coming in through the day, but you'll just be always on. Energy was always high, and the types of youth that were coming through, like your energy was never low. So that was something that I learned as a practitioner, was how important it was to be present, and I definitely have taken that to this day. So I can't thank you enough for your leadership, because that kind of taught me a lot about myself. Could I have done more in the gym myself? Of course.
Work in progress still, yeah.
But definitely as a practitioner, I put a lot of emphasis as a leader. Like, my team know how full on I am, and how important it is, that we all rise together. So definitely leadership is something that I'm really passionate about, and you're someone that definitely kind of really takes that to another level. So, your athletes are very lucky to have a leader like you in their environment.
No, absolutely. And I think, like, going back to what you're saying about your growth, is like, you understand where your strengths are, and you surround yourself with people that build up your areas that you need assistance with. And I think that's, from the perspective of your work ethic, second to none as well. You wouldn't be where you are today without the work ethic that you've done, with the giving up all the weekends and the hours you put in, and always going above and beyond to fit people in, when outside hours and scoping and growing and networking, like it's second to none to see that stuff. But I'll circle back, because I don't want to dismiss one element. Does not mean that I don't give the energy to the female athletes that I coach and train, because I absolutely love training them and what they create and do. I'm just trying to explain, like, the way I coach them. Girls don't need to be told off. They need to be guided, directed, and encouraged to try heavier weights typically, or push their intensity. Boys need to be pulled back a bit and directed, so that they're not trying to go beyond their level at times, and making sure that they're staying on track with what they're doing. And then, top end environments, when it comes to the right moments, absolutely executing the plan to a high level and getting that energy to your athletes, no matter who it is super important. So just wanted to sort of show that little difference.
Now, in terms of environment, we'll talk about leadership, culture. Culture ties in with obviously leadership, because you create that environment. Now, you guys are building something special out west. From the outside in, it looks like a place to be. You know what I mean? You've now been looking after one of our staff, Manny, who's coming in, and the aura that he's come to us and just talks about you guys, like, it's amazing. I see the passion, enthusiasm in terms of how to manage athletes. Like, how do you guys protect that culture?
Yeah, I think that comes down to the people you have around, and like, we are lucky. We are a small but strong team, highly skilled professionals, and the big part is, like, the personality traits of the people in the building is that this is like, they love this as much as everyone else. And when you have the right team that are cohesive and working together on track, that's going to help build your environment and training environment. Because at the end of the day, I'm only one person. My business partner, Mitch, is only one person. The other Mitch, who's our business partner, is only one person. So if we have only us three and we're on path, but then other people aren't, it's not going to work. We have to have everyone sort of with the right energy and personality to help grow our gym. And we don't always get that right. It's been a process, but you get better at identifying people who have those traits that will help build the environment that you're looking for. And I think it comes back to what makes sports teams successful and those traits that you need in their environment. So high standards, the equipment you have, accessibility, the level of detail that comes to programs and design, and the conversations that you can create that aren't just about training, but learning about your athletes and then them actually loving and wanting to be part of your brand, I think truly helps you to create the environment that you're looking for. And then the culture and standards, it's because that's what's the top-down approach. So from the top all the way down, I still take the bins out. I still clean the bathrooms at times. You just don't expect other people to do things that you're not willing to do. And that's something that we've always come back to as what helps us to build the right environment. And then when you're bringing in the best athletes, them coming in and the attitude that they bring to the environment obviously helps to grow the culture that's in there, because you've got professional athletes in there lifting, training, putting in hard work, and our young athletes get to be there and see that at times. So they're able to learn and see what the best are doing. And I think that kind of creates a great culture, because you as a young athlete who's 10 years old can look up and see a 25-year-old athlete who you've seen on TV and obviously then be excited that you're training in the same place and seeing how hard they work.
I definitely back you on that. And I know that for us as a team at Kinematics, we put a lot of emphasis on culture, and obviously culture is about what you accept, right? And having a big team, we put a lot of emphasis on making sure the leadership team lead by example. So kind of like what how you talked about, you're both Mitches, and how important is you guys set the tone from the top down. Well, I don't like the top down analogy. I like the lateral, because for us in healthcare, we're mindful of, we're in this together. So one of our values is whānau. So whānau, there's no, you've got leaders, but we're doing this together. And I definitely feel that, you guys definitely radiate the culture of like, want to be there. I'm knowing patients that you've sent to us, and just the energy I can feel from them, the aura. So I definitely dig what you guys are doing. And massive shout out to you guys. Now, speaking of culture, this can kind of tie into my next question. You've now been doing a little bit of consulting, right? Can you tell us who?
Western Bulldogs, yeah,
awesome.
Of course.
Have you enjoyed your time?
Go Dogs!
Enjoyed your time?
Yeah, so I started in November last year for the preseason as the role term is specialist athletic performance consultant or something like of that nature. So my role is to come in and assist the team in the main gym sessions by executing their program and bringing a high level of detail to the training of the athletes and the environment. So it's actually the best pro sport job that for someone like me that I could have on the side, because I go in, I execute, I leave, I don't have to think about anything else. So there's no other responsibilities, no other touch points for me. I get my touch points like the day before I'm coming in of a couple of things, or in the meeting prior to the start of sessions. So it's perfect in that scenario. And it's been amazing. The environment, the athletes, all the people I'm working with have been amazing. And you can sense, like I could sense in the preseason, that everyone is locked in. And so you can sense that things will be successful because the attitude of everyone around is of the highest level. At the end of the day, that's the sort of thing that you want to be around, because it pulls you in. Positivity, high outputs, great energy around, and athletes that want to push themselves to the next level to get the results that they're looking for.
Seeing that environment, does it like get you pretty G'd up? Like, do you turn up and go, cool, I'm going to flog these guys? Or
Nah.
How do you approach that? Because you're coming from another environment and then straight into a completely different zone. Like, how do you mentally prepare for that?
Yeah, I think I just like embraced what I knew was going to be that if I'm high energy, then that's going to help, because at the end of the day, that's easy for me. I've been coaching for over 20 years, so like bringing energy to people is what we need to do. So I had to just like make sure like I understood what was needed, and then focus in on those points that I could bring to the team, because I wanted to make sure that, you know, if even though I'm not there every day, that I can help the athletes in some way, that they will be thankful for me being there, rather than, oh, there's another guy just trying to come in here and, you know, get on our coattails. Because that, you know, when you're at the pro teams, everyone wants to come and intern and learn and be there, but I want to make sure I'm giving something to the environment that I'm in. And you know, it's been a great exposure to the top level to really, for me, be able to take a step back and just like see how the organizations have developed. So the last time I was at that level where I could see a little bit more detail in pro sport was at the Melbourne Demons, but that was over 10 years ago. So
How much has that changed? How much has like athletic performance changed?
more as like they don't miss anything at the top levels. Like, and if people think that the top aren't trying to stop any injuries or stop anything from happening, like, you know, they are doing everything possible to try, and they're constantly evaluating all the things they need to. But I think the best thing is like they're still pushing, right? They're still pushing and taking risks to try and get athletes to the level that we need them to be to win. Because at the end of the day, you need to win.
Yep.
That's what keeps you in your job, and that's what gets the success that everyone's striving and chasing.
I love a good risk taker. Could you tell us, is there any moments in training that you've kind of pushed them where you're like, cool, and they've questioned, what is this program?
No. I think like the thing about like when it comes to lifting is, if you've seen lifting and you've been around it, and I can look at how someone's moving and make a pretty good decision on how much weight they should or shouldn't add to the next lift based on the outcome we're looking for. I think where it comes to the risks, it's more like you have to take some risk in pushing players like at some point on the field with their running their sprints, what it is that you're putting into their program. The gym, we're going to be a little bit more safe, because at the end of the day, that's what's meant to keep the athlete out on the track. The track's where most of the risk is taken. So they're trying to absolutely push athletes to their near breaking point to get the most adaptation they can without breaking, obviously, and then recovering them back so they can keep doing that again and again, so that their base level rises.
So when you're in that environment, is someone helping coordinate? I mean, how many players are there in the gym?
So we'll have 3 groups of about 12 to
Okay.
15, depending.
That's a lot of humans in the space.
We have 4 coaches in there though.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so in terms of like being exposed into that environment 10 years on, has it made you really proud of what you've built? Like in terms of Melbourne Fitness and Performance, saying that you're not far off?
I think the thing that for me was that I've said that I'm good enough to be at that level. You call it a bit of ego, but I've said that I'm good enough to be at pro sport level. Should I have gone down that path completely or continued chasing it? Now I went away from it. I went private because I was getting so close to getting the job, but never getting it. I've kept missing out because someone knew someone. And now the reason I'm in the job that I'm in is because I know someone. Yep. So, it goes back around eventually. It is a lot of who you know, but I think it was a bit of I know that I'm good enough to be at this level. And then getting an opportunity now and ticking that box of like, yes, I know I am good enough to be at the pro sport level, and what I can do for athletes resonates across at that level. So for me, from that, that's probably the big thing that I can take away from this moment. And like what we're doing at MFP is helping athletes be prepared for that level. Or if an athlete comes to us who's at that level, we're giving them a training experience that will help them when they go back. Yeah. Because athletes have off seasons, and that's where we do our best work with the pros. And we have a lot of unique different sports as well at MFP that don't have professional environments, but they're professional athletes in their own right.
Yeah, it's just amazing that your athletes get that exposure. I mean, speaking of like knowing people, but sometimes that's your best CV as well.
Oh,
it's important to be a good person.
The networking stuff, like it really hits home, and my network is vast, and the conversations I can have with people out there and ask questions and give back to or get or get things from, I think, it comes back to every opportunity. There's always going to be, someone you could meet that you might change your life. Like I've been asked to run a retreat for a private client for 4 days this year. I've lived in an athlete's house for a couple of weeks to help them level up to a new level. That wasn't on my bingo cards for the year, but why not? And I think that's the exciting thing about this industry. Once you start opening up doors and pushing yourself, there's so many unique opportunities out there.
And I just actually want to touch on that because that's something I hold quite close to my cards or my heart as well in terms of networking. Like people think that you need to organize a meeting and do A, B, C, but sometimes it's actually authentically getting to know someone and building a connection. Like for example, here today, the human that put this whole thing together, he's become a dear friend, over years, and just through conversations that we're able to do this. So Padula has been a dear friend to I. Like treat him, he reminds me of my oldest brother, and that's where the connection is. And I feel like I'm with my brother when I see the guy. And so that just the energy for people and just the love, and I've always been about that. But that in terms of like connection here, I'm not even from Melbourne, but to start kinematics with absolute no one, all I had to do was, people ask me, how did you build kinematics? The most common question I get is, who are your investors? And I'm like, what? Like, that is the most common question I get asked. I'm like, dude, the investors were working 7 days every day.
You're gonna have to do a founders podcast episode where you tell your story at some point.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
let people know.
But I mean, like, the reason why I want to tie this back to you is because being a practitioner, you do have to understand people. Like, we're in a people industry, and you talk to any, like you would know, you talk to any business owner, the most important fundamental is people skills, and that is very key. Like, people forget that the essence of connection is people. And so I've always seen that in you. You're someone that's a bit of a go-getter, and I connect to that. I resonate with someone who's a hard worker, who doesn't like, who takes full ownership of anything. So if they make mistakes, say, cool, learn from it, move on. And that means a lot to me. So I've seen that in you, and I've definitely, as a leader, learned more and more of that. And I try and pass that energy on to the rest of the team, that it doesn't happen just like that. You got to do the time, you got to get to know people, you got to keep building on it.
Yeah. And your network's the most powerful thing you'll have in life.
Yeah.
So I've got people from all different worlds, all different backgrounds and lifestyles that I can connect with and ask favors for about so many different things. And I think, that's an amazing way to live. And I think that's what we're meant to do as humans. I think connection and working together. You go back to when I was a kid, we used to live in a neighborhood and everyone used to share everything. It's like you knew all the neighbors by name. You used to jump the fence, use their stuff. You had tramps, so the kids would come over to your house, and then you'd go around the road and your mum would swap them some fruits that she got from her parents for something else that these people had. And that was the way I remember life being. And I think we can continue that no matter where we are in life, and just keep networking and open up opportunities.
Far out. We'll have to do another podcast on networking. We can go pretty deep on that. But we're getting close now. Now, just a bit of reflection. Looking back, what is something that you wished you knew earlier?
I think
from where you are now?
Yeah, the one thing that I would go back and I wish I just knew earlier was just it's an interesting question to think, because you got to look at it. Am I thinking of it from a business perspective, a personal coach perspective, or a life? So there's a few different ways I'll take it. But from business perspective, it would be if I had have known earlier to push the envelope on the risk that you're thinking you want to take. Sometimes I feel like we wait a little bit longer than we think, but just make sure it's calculated. So don't be afraid to take the risk when your heart is into it, because if your energy and heart is there, you'll make it successful, rather than waiting too long to try what it is that you're thinking about. Because I've pivoted so many times at MFP. We used to do group fitness classes, yoga, mat Pilates, and sometimes you hold
performance Pilates now.
Sometimes you hold on to things for longer than they need to, instead of maneuvering to where your true desires and what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, no, I love that. And now we've got a short game for you. It's a one-word answer. Okay.
Okay.
So-
One word. Oh, that's tough for me.
So you ready? So tell me, performance or longevity? Which one?
Longevity.
Longevity. Culture or results?
Culture.
One word to describe great athletes.
Dedication.
Dedication. Love it. Most underrated quality in sport?
Lifestyle behaviors.
Yeah, we can put that.
Slide
Okay.
in the second word there.
What's
Sorry.
that?
It doesn't makes more sense to say it like that. Lifestyle
Yeah.
behaviors.
Yeah.
Run it.
We can say attitude. But anyway, last one for you is legacy. You know, you can use this as a sentence now. What does it mean to you?
Oh, what does it mean to me? Legacy. I think it's, if I think about what it means to me, it's leaving the industry in a better position than when you found it.
Love it. Now, while we're on legacy, you got to do obs with the greatest team in the world, the All Blacks. Could you share a little
Thank you.
insight? Could you share a little insight what that was like?
Well-oiled machine, and so from that, I mean, they knew the time that they had with the session that they had. The athletes came in, everyone knew exactly what was going on, and it was just flow, done. But the intent from the athletes was at the highest level, and I think like when you're a team like that, that makes sense that that's going to be there. But seeing the execution of it and the intent behind it with the athletes, I think was just like, second to none, because it made me go back and go, what little things can we do better that's going to help the outcome of every single day that we're doing? Because it was all the little small things that we didn't think, like, old school have paper on the wall with some things, explaining things to athletes again if they went to that area, so they understood, okay, cool, and they could get on with it, even if they'd done it 5 times before. So it just made me go back and refine some of the small processes that we take for granted and make sure that our athletes understand that to the highest level. So yeah, just like you can't beat years in the game. And when someone's been somewhere for a long time, you can see everything that they're about and what they're creating.
Yeah. And obviously you got to connect with Gilly there. What was it like seeing him in action?
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where you go, look up to people out there in the industry and who's a hero and someone you like to meet, and to see that the persona and the person that you see out there is the persona and the person that you meet in real life. Yeah. And the way he handles himself and what he does and what he gives you is exactly what you would expect and what you see and comes across as him as a person online. And for me, that was just like the light bulb moment of like, leadership, personality, rapport, all the stuff we talked about today of the type of person you are and the character that you have and how everyone else sees that.
I love that. And a massive shout out to Gilly, who's finally ended his career with the All Blacks. And
Sad day.
100%. But what a human he is. He's everything about culture and leadership. And look, Mike, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute honor, and can't wait to connect further with you, and wish you all the best, man.
Amazing, my brother. Thank you as always.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Let's go, baby.
Hey team, thank you so much for joining us on another episode at Pep Talks. It's a massive blessing to have you guys here. Please like us, subscribe, follow us, share our content. The more you can do that, then the more we can get speakers that can empower and uplift you guys. And I just want to say a massive thank you for your time, and looking forward to updating you with more content. Massive blessing. God bless.